Hello, everyone. How are you doing? My name is Brigitta Toruño, and welcome to Uno Soul's Chat. Today, I am so honored to be chatting with Misti Burmeister, and she is definitely an Uno Soul. Misti is an author, a speaker, and an executive coach, as well as just an amazing person. Welcome, Misti.
Thank you, Brigitta. It's a joy to be with you and to be included in the Uno Souls. I have so many questions about the Uno. You know what? I assume Uno means we are one. Yes?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Well, there I go.
Yeah, very good. Very good. Yeah. And it's also like I have another company, Uno Translation. So Uno has been an important word for me for a long time.
That makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, well, thank you. Misti, how have you been doing during these surreal times of our pandemic, now starting our third year?
Wow. This is such a great question, Brigitta, because you and I have some depth and connection that's far beyond, just a question or just an interview. And, it depends on the day and the time of day that you ask me that question. Sometimes I feel like putting my head underneath a pillow and pretending like this isn't happening. And sometimes I feel like honestly grateful for all of it, and that's where I actually try to spend more of my time. I wouldn't be, the pandemic provided a lot of gifts and a lot of hard. But some of the gifts are, before the pandemic, I had a lot of anxiety about presenting information in front of an audience. I had too much perfectionism was robbing me of my ability to just share. And when the pandemic happened and we all went on Zoom, most of my colleagues hated it. They didn't want to be on Zoom. And for me, it meant that I could because I couldn't see the audience. And for a lot of people, they hated that. For me, I loved it because then I wasn't so worried about what do you think about me? I was just being me. And it turns out they really liked that.
Yeah.
So I also had a chance to dive deeper into the topics that really mattered to me and that I've spent a lifetime studying, psychological safety, trust in a virtual environment. How do you give and receive feedback in the virtual in an environment, period? Like, how do we do this thing called growth in the face of such challenge? And I love these topics. And again, I spent a lifetime studying it. So now, boom, here's my opportunity to talk about it in the virtual setting, which is really a blessing, So
yeah, that is a blessing. I love how you look at the positive of things, and that's what I work on doing that too. And I think that it was a blessing that, it was like this microcosm of everything that you've learned that you were able to apply in this space of time that was gifted to us,
Yeah, I gotta be honest with you. In many ways, it didn't feel like a gift. So yes, I have a positive outlook and I do, but I also want to share with you, and for those people who are listening in, I'm sure I'm not alone in the intensity of the anxiety within my body. Like my entire head, neck, and shoulders literally tightened down. So even though I knew it, I was aware of it, I could sense that my body was doing that, was tightening down. I didn't know what to do for it. And so I tried guided meditations, I tried medications, I tried lots of things to help my body to relax. And even still, as you and I have talked many times about pain in the body, and I've got lots of opportunities for improvement around that even now, because my body holds tension. And I would love to be able to tell you but my body does this, but then I do this and everything's better. It's not that way, right? So I'm also dealing with that struggle of the body having a difficult time with change and not feeling safe with the change, even though cognitively I'm aware that I have a roof over my head, I have food for my stomach, I even have some, like you, beautiful friends to share the experience with. My body is still like, what is happening? Am I going to be safe? And it's sending off all kinds of alerts of it's not safe.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. And yeah, you've touched on it a little bit, how you and I have been sharing a challenging part of our journey that we've been through these last few months. And John O'Donohue, author, spiritual person, he says, we're always on a journey from darkness into light. And so I feel like I've been in the darkness part. And I think, for me, I feel like I go darkness, light, oh, darkness again, oh, light, so thankfully it's a yin and yang of all of that. But, and it's been pain, right? It's so interesting to me because I feel like, I know that you're an athlete and you really push yourself and give yourself, these tremendous goals to achieve, and you do. And I've always, admired that in you. And I've known you for several years, and not well. I mean, I think that we years ago, maybe 8, 9, 10 years ago, maybe through some networking, and then really just following you on Facebook. And I know you've written some beautiful books. And so, I wish we had even more time. And we might have to do another chat to talk about your business, which I think is just a beautiful coaching business. So I really want to highlight that and that accomplishment that you have. But and I guess we're trying to talk a little bit about our journey through the pain of this, right? And, for me, I'm not an athlete, and yet our spines are in similar shape, which is not a good place.
It hurts, that's for sure.
Right.
Yeah. There's a recent in this conversation, it seems like it's helpful to talk about sort of some of the things that we do that help with this stuff.
Yes.
And for me, and you and I talk a lot about affirmations, but it's beyond affirmations into a place of real belief. Mm-hmm. And one of the beliefs that was offered to me not too long ago was my body is my ally. Mm. And I have sat with that for months now and gone, and also my therapist, which therapy has been an incredible help to me.
Yes.
I feel like everybody should have a therapist.
I agree. Yes.
Can I sit with and listen to what the pain is trying to tell me? Mm-hmm. And what I hear over and over again is sort of like soften. Like I need to, if I can soften, then the body knows how to heal itself.
Right.
That being said, when I have pain shooting from my lower, I have a slip disc, and who knows what else is going on in there. Every time I go to another practitioner, I learn something more, which is another gift. Honestly, I don't want to learn about all this stuff, but this is what I'm learning about right now.
That's right.
And frankly, I'm using it in all the other elements of my life in some way, shape, or form. And so, when that pain shoots from that L3, L4 area, and it feels like the bone is clicking on top of the bone, like that grabs my attention, and I don't like it, and I don't want that. But if I sit and not wanting it and not liking it, then now I have an addition to the pain. Now I have the pain of not liking it, the pain of not accepting it, in addition to the actual pain itself. Yeah. So this is a part of the journey for me to this, I think, overall life gift of acceptance. And because there's a lot of things in life that we don't like, and I don't want to have to go through. My father-in-law is very sick right now.
Sorry.
With stage 4 lung cancer, and it sort of came upon us in an overnight sort of thing, and we just didn't know, because it just wasn't communicated the degree to which his condition had gotten. So anyway, it's extremely difficult, and he's not doing well, and we don't know how much longer we have with him. Right. So that is challenging me and my wife to be better communicators and find out how do we do this relationship thing in a prolonged, perhaps, we don't know how long we have with him, prolonged period of uncertainty and suffering. Mm-hmm. That's really interesting for me, is watching somebody suffer and there's nothing you can do to help that suffering.
That's right.
That is so hard.
Yeah.
And, and it brought me to my knees in tears.
Yeah, and it's the grief process already. It's the grief, and grief is filled with so many different aspects and emotions that we have to honor. And it's not easy at all.
Well, you say we have to honor, we also have to honor other people's capabilities of our honoring of our emotions, right? So I was at the breakfast table having breakfast, and after which I was honestly, the day he came home on Christmas Day, and I'll just leave it at that. It was not pretty. It was excruciatingly difficult to watch. Nobody slept that night because we were all afraid. And the next morning I'm crying at the breakfast table, just Yvette and I, and then her mom walks in, and I'm just mostly out of exhaustion. Honestly, I couldn't even process what was happening as much as I was just tired. And that her mom wasn't okay with that. Her mom said, you need to be strong. And I said, my vulnerability is strength. And there was a bit of back and forth there. And and ultimately she said to me, I'm an emotional person too, but if you need to cry in this situation, go to a room, close a door, cry, clean yourself up, come back out. And I was like, I need to go for a walk. So whenever I'm about ready to punch somebody in the throat, Misty needs to go for a walk. So I went for a walk, and I sort of tried to convert what she said, which was, for me, what worked was, Misty, my emotionality is too much for me right now. And your additional emotion around me is too hard. I can't take it. Okay. So I sort of took it as a request. And I thought, well, how can I honor this request? And which is totally can be very dishonoring of myself. Right. And so the best definition of boundaries I've ever heard is, how the closest distance in which I can honor both you and me. Right. So I'm like, how do I do that? So I walked back in the door and I told her, I heard you and I'm going to honor your request. And she said, oh, it's not about me. This is advice to you. And I was like, okay, I need another walk. Right. And so eventually, I walked away from that. And then eventually I converted that into, she needs to be the strong one right now. And so I'm going to honor that. But there's a lot of requests that are sort of like, I can't be me. Right. So how do I honor me and also honor her at the same time? Right. And then in this world of COVID, where there's a lot of uncertainties, and I've got lots of emotions because I'm a human being for lots of reasons. And I just am not any longer willing to stuff those things. So I need space. So I came home. And so it's been quite a journey, Brigitte. Like I don't think for any one of us, it's just COVID. I think it's COVID, and then maybe somebody got COVID, and then maybe it's somebody lost their job, and then maybe it's my kids are graduating from school, but how are they going to do that thing of graduation, which is complete now? But there's so many ands with this. Is like there's no normalcy in our lives right now, and it's constantly a new normal. Right. And I think all of that can layer up in us and cause pain. So we may already have a weakness in our physical bodies, and then all of those layers of stress and anxiety add to it, and suddenly it's perhaps okay, now there's pain. And that's what I kept saying to myself. I'm not just my L4 and my L5. What else is going on with me, from the emotional, spiritual, physical perspective? How can I work on the whole me? And I found some quotes, I love quotes. And Rumi talks a lot about pain. I really didn't realize that.
And he says, don't get lost in your pain. Know that one day your pain will become your cure. And then he also says the cure for pain is in the pain. And I really do believe that. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. I have a meditation coach, Dr. Elliot Dasher, who's worked with me for 28 years. And I talked to him through this passage in my life. And he said, pain is a sensory experience and it is impermanent. And I was like, wow. But, really, when you stop and you really get still through that pain and breathe through it, you realize it does stop. I mean, maybe it's for 5 seconds or 10 seconds, but it sort of lets up a little and then it begins again. So it's sort of in that space, right? That space of the letting up where the lesson is, to sort of look for that and to not get stuck in the pain. But boy, is that hard.
My gosh, unbelievable. I think what you're saying is so powerful. And thank you for sharing those quotes. It reminds me of his poem, The Guest House.
Oh, yeah.
I have it here. I can read it if you like.
I would love for you to. Yes, thank you.
Okay, yeah, I'll read it in just a second. But I just think that our brains, my brain and your brain, all of our brains are wired to protect, and we're also wired to project, right? To protect and to project. Projection is a part of the protecting, and so we naturally go into the future, and our brains are wired to go to the negative about the future. And our brains are wired to think that this is going to last forever. That's what our brain is wired to do. And very few of us know that, and very often I forget that, and I have to come back to that.
Mm-hmm.
Of that remembering, literally everything is temporary. But when you're in it, it feels like it's going to last forever.
Yes.
And then you can go back and you can go, but it's lasted already this many months. So there's no room there for curiosity, for what might happen next, for positive. We have to, I have to especially work at the positive element, the gratitude element, looking for imagining what might happen because of this,
mm-hmm.
in a way that is positive. Imagine, for example, what I'm working on right now very hard is imagining what types of exercises, types of exercising might come into my life because of this pain.
Mm-hmm.
I literally can't push off of this hand right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't do the things I really want to do. I can't even swim, which 8 years ago, I didn't even know how to swim. I just learned how to swim and I fell in love with it. Yeah. And it helped me, by the way, because back then I had extreme pain in my left hip. And somebody said, go do this Swim Across America thing, and it'll cost you $25 to sign up. You raise $500 and you get free coaching. And I was like, free coaching? Yeah, let's do that. I'm always about where's the deal? Yeah. And I didn't even know what a swim cap was for. And now I love to swim, but that pain in my left hip led me to swimming, right? Mm-hmm. And now I'm in this pain and I'm like, I wonder what kind of exercise that I'm going to fall in love with, probably, that I have no idea what it is. Am I going to be brave enough to look for it?
Yeah. Yeah.
So even getting on one of the gyms I go to out here is called the ACAC. Mm-hmm. And I went through and I was looking at the different types of exercises, classes and stuff that they have, because I love people and I would love to be able to be with people and exercise. And my brain was like, no, you're not going to like that. No, you're not going to like that. No, you're not going to like, everything. I'm like, not going to like any of that because I don't know it. Right. So I was like, all right, I'm going to have to tiptoe my way through this and just ask some questions at the gym, because I'm not different than most of us in that it's uncomfortable. It's something new. Who's going to be there? Am I going to like this? I got to try something different. So I'm going to try something different and see what happens, and just lean into that curiosity. The Rumi thing, you want me to read that?
I would love for you to. Yes. Thank you.
I got to find it. And what's interesting about this is that my therapist gave it to me in the middle of the difficult experiences around the body pain.
Mm-hmm.
And daggum it, I have it in here.
No, that's okay.
Here it is. Here it is. All right. This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all. Even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture, still treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond.
I love that so much. It is one of my favorite poems too. So I'm so glad that you had that right there. Thank you.
Well, you brought Rumi. I have to look at that on a regular basis right now. Yeah, I saved that to my phone.
It says so much. It says so much. And, there's a quote from the Buddha that says, pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. And there's something else. Maxime Lagacé says, every pain is a gift and every pain is an opportunity. And that reminds me of what you just talked about, the opportunity to find a different exercise, right? It's like, okay, maybe swimming, not now, but what else will work? And I think that's just so great that you look at things like that.
Well, there is, I don't want to leave out the process of getting to there, right? So I don't just get there to, I'm going to accept this. I go through, like everybody else, the grief associated with not being able to do things the way I want to be able to do them. I go through the fighting that, which ultimately leads to more pain, by the way. But I do that. And so in that process, can I accept myself as I am and kind of have some joy with that stubborn part of myself that wants to do what I want to do, the way I want to do it, and wants the comfort of the known versus the potential comfort of the unknown. Right. Mm-hmm. So it's compassion for myself has increased tremendously as a result of all of COVID. Right. And certainly as a result of the pain in the body and the pain in the heart right now. I mean, there's a lot of loss associated with the pandemic and a lot of loss associated with my father-in-law.
Exactly. Yeah. It is a whole combination of things, and that culminate in some sort of possibly again a physical pain that shows up in our bodies, and it is a matter of now. Sometimes I understand that I do feel pain has to do with a lot of different emotions, right? The emotional, the spiritual. But it is the reality that sometimes a physical pain will require the medical world to come in and possibly the person have to go through surgery. Mm-hmm. And that's a given, that may happen. I know that was presented to me as a possibility that I may have to have surgery on my back. And I, like you said, my first reaction was so emotional. I was just like, no, I can't believe it. I am not going to allow that. I mean, that is too scary. I just had this tremendous reaction around it. And then as I got more informed and educated really about what exactly was going on with my back, and I talked to a lot of people that have had similar problems and even back surgery, I don't know, it was more like my fear started subsiding a little bit because I had a better understanding of it. And then I got to a point where I thought, you know what? I'm going to let this go. I'm going to surrender. I'm going to surrender the fear and putting up the block of I will not do that. I just let go. And the more I let go, the more I was healing. And to a point where I'm very grateful that I am not in pain. And I haven't been for a few weeks. I don't know. I don't know if it'll come back. I mean, there's always that possibility, but I don't think I'm at a place where surgery is going to be needed. But it was a tremendous process to go through.
You know, you're speaking, it reminds me of, I can't remember who said it, but you probably will, or somebody will. The only thing to fear is fear itself.
Yeah.
I've thought a lot about that quote. I think it was Roosevelt.
I think you're right. Mm-hmm.
I thought a lot about that quote because basically what you're talking about is when I stopped fearing fear.
Mm-hmm.
My fear says all these things are going to happen. And if we go, okay, that might. And I also heard you say that you got curious and educated, really is the word you used, right? You got curious, you started talking to people, and the more educated you became about your condition and the possibilities around that, the less fear you had.
That's right.
And so having been to, I don't know, about 8 different physical therapists, many, as a chiropractor, acupuncturist, 3 different doctors for my own stuff. I mean, it's very clear that there are some things that are going on inside of there that are not, it's not in my head. Right. And I'm getting ready to have a nerve conduction test done, which does not sound like fun to me, but I really want to know for sure, where is the nerve pain coming from?
Right.
And I'm going to learn a lot through this. So it's continuing to get information. My brain just wants to fix the shit.
Yes.
That's the way my brain just fix it. I don't want to be done with it.
Mm-hmm.
And this is humbling me. I feel like many of life's challenges, my life's challenges, have really just humbled me. Mm-hmm. And you know, like my niece and my niece is 21 years old, and she'll often say to me and her friends, you know, you're so humble. You've done all these things, but we would never know it. I'm like, dude, let me tell you about the things that have happened that have humbled me. Yes. So, and we all eventually go through it. Some of us just fight a little bit more than others, a lot more, some than others. At the end of the day, I'm not in charge. And and I'm not in charge. There's a power that be that's greater than me. And when I'm in that place and humble, then I don't have to. So when you were talking, one of the things I thought about when you were like, I'm not going to get surgery, right? What went on in my head was, how did I cause this? Shit, somehow I caused this, right? Like when you said, I'm not going to do this, I literally went to a place with myself, like I caused this with my body, and and then to get angry at myself about that. Right. And because of my faith and my understanding that everything in life is here to help me grow. Yeah. And I just live into the possibility of discovering how it's here for me. Then I can be humbled by it and go, okay, what's the plan, God? What's the bigger plan? Let me just imagine that there is one. I'll tell you a real quick story. A lot of people say to me, how did you and your wife meet? Because we've been together for 17 years and we have an amazingly beautiful, kind, loving relationship that has plenty of challenges and discomforts and hard conversations, probably forever.
Yes.
But they ask about it. And some people think that I wrote down a list of all the things I was looking for in a spouse, which, to be perfectly honest with you, I did. I wrote down a list of all the things I was looking for in a spouse.
Yeah.
And then the universe gave me Yvette. And honestly, I didn't even a fraction of the things on that list that are the most beautiful elements of Yvette. So I couldn't have even imagined the gift that God gave me with her. Wow. Right? I couldn't have even imagined it.
Yeah.
So then is it possible that I can't even imagine the gifts of this experience with the body? I can't even imagine the gifts of the full gifts of the pandemic, of having gotten COVID myself. My brain wants to tell me that it's all negative and bad, but that's just because I can't even imagine how incredibly beautiful, how many great things have already transpired because of it.
Right. Oh, I love that, Misti. And I think of the concept of nourishing your soul a lot. And so that's sort of what you're describing reminds me of that, right? So what out of this experience can you find what has nourished your soul?
Oh, I love this question. I'll take you right into a moment that I get not every day, but probably at least a few times a week. I do a guided meditation, which my therapist graciously put together for me. And sometimes I drift off into sleep.
Yes.
A deep rest, at least. And when I come out, when the recording is complete and I come out of that, there is a stillness in my body, and I don't want to leave it. I feel like I'm being with God. I can hear and see and feel in a way I can't normally. So that is one of the things. Can you ask me the same question one more time?
Sure.
Because there was something else.
Nourishing your soul. What out of the experience of pain and or pandemic do you feel has nourished your soul?
You know what, Yvette and I went into the backcountry quite a bit in 2020 because that's really all we could do, right? So we went backcountry camping in the backcountry, pack on a 30-pound pack on your back. Everything you need to survive is on your back. So that's what we did many times during the pandemic. And on one of the trips, I just started going for walks with my coffee in the morning. Yvette was still sleeping because I get up much earlier than she does. I'm up at 4:30. She doesn't get up until 8.
Yeah, I'm a 5 a.m.
Yeah. So I do my little morning routine, and then I would go for a little walk and come back, and then she would be up. Well, I started doing that walking thing every morning. So I do my morning routine and then go out for a walk and touch some trees and smell the air. Well, that made a profound difference for me. I calmed. I also started to connect with neighbors that I'd never met. And then I would say maybe I started that a year ago, or a little more than a year ago. And then I started doing this thing where I'd listen to podcasts or I'd make phone calls to my friends or whoever. And I realized only about 3 days ago that was really hampering the gift of that morning walk because I had stuff in my ears, so I couldn't hear the birds. Right. And this morning was the first time in the past 6 months that I didn't talk to anybody. I didn't listen to anything. I mean, my neighbor I connected with, and I could hear God.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Wow.
I could hear God whispering in my ears, and I knew some things that I didn't know before the walk, which was, so these are the little, and they don't cost anything. You just go for a walk.
Exactly.
You just put a little earbud in your ear and you do a guided meditation in the middle of the day. Right. And it just calms and it recenters, and creativity goes all over the place. I'm so creative when I'm in that trusting space that I'm grounded in. Yeah.
I love that, Misti. And actually, you're saying creative.
Do you have another quote?
I do. There's John O'Donohue. I don't know if you can see that. John O'Donohue. This is the Anamkara.
You have to hold it really still because your background.
I don't think it's going to work at all because right there.
It looks like a book anyway.
And so in this, he says, all creativity awakens at this primal threshold where light and darkness rest and bless each other. So I just love that whole idea of the creativity, Misty. And thank you so much for spending this time with me and going over this part of our journey, which is the mix of the light and the dark. And it's beautiful because we're walking it and doing our best through it. And I wondered, Misty, could you leave us with some words of wisdom?
Oh, wow. What comes for me right now is just based out of my current experience is honor and love yourself. And the best way I know how to do that is to carve out time in your day to listen to yourself. And that is, there's a couple of different ways to do that. One is like, you can do that while you're fishing, right? You can do that while you're walking. You can also do that by, there's a really great exercise that another soothing soul thing for me is morning pages. There's Google morning pages. You'll see that there's a booklet that you can, for very not expensive, you can purchase, and you just write every morning. And through this writing every morning, I get to know myself.
I've been doing it too. That's Julia Cameron's.
That's right.
Pages. Yeah.
Yep. Julia Cameron. Yep. And I love it because it gives me a chance to hear myself. I think so many people want everybody else to hear them. They never stop to hear themselves.
Yeah.
So my greatest words of wisdom, if I have any, would be take the time with yourself to hear yourself, to honor yourself, and to comfort yourself. Find out what you need, not what everybody else tells you that you should need, but what do you need?
Exactly.
And it's different for all of us.
It sure is.
Real quickly, I'll tell you, one of the things I knew I needed was some kind of a prayer ritual. So I did, because I didn't grow up praying. I mean, God was a cuss word in my house growing up. That's really not a joke. That's how it was growing up. It was like a negative thing, so I didn't know how to pray, and I did some research. I'm like, how do you pray? And I couldn't find anything. And then I did that thing I mentioned just a minute ago. As I got really quiet, and what I heard was a candle. See, I thought you needed 3 candles for some reason. I thought I heard somebody on a podcast talk about how they light 3 candles, and I'm like, I don't know what the 3 candles are for, so let me do some research. But none of those things came out for me. None of those things made sense for me. Yeah. So in my quiet space, what I heard I needed was to light a candle. So I just went and got a candle, and every night, I light this thing, and then I put it down in front of me, and I say, thank you for many things that I was gifted throughout the day. I say some prayers for myself and for other people. And before I blow out the candle every night, Brigitte, I look at it and I sincerely ask myself, did I give my best today? I haven't found one day in the 2 years that I've done this. I haven't found one day where the answer was no. I always give my best.
Of course.
And my best I finish in my head is always enough.
Yeah. That's beautiful. So that's beautiful, Misty, that you sought that out for yourself, not having grown up with it, and you found something that resonates for you and that works for you, and that's the most important thing. So thank you so much for sharing that.
You are a joy to be with, Brigitte, always on air and off. I love you.
Thank you. I love you too, Misty. And this continues to be a powerful time to love each other, to unite, and to live in peace. And thank you so much again for joining me, and I honor the light in you. Thank you so much for listening to Uno Souls Chat. You can find us at www.unosouls.com and on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I would love to hear from you if you would like to chat with me. Have a beautiful week, and see you at the next episode.